While everybody was getting ready to celebrate Christmas yesterday, the eighth largest country, a $2.2 trillion giant, has published a new report on Bitcoin, accelerating the attack that this country has already embarked on against Bitcoin this year. That's right. This country's already attacked Bitcoin, and we can see their new report yesterday has some pretty shocking, quote unquote, remarks about Bitcoin, where they literally call Bitcoin a crime as a service peer to peer facilitator. So, what exactly is going on in Europe? Has Italy been infiltrated? And are there some interesting but divergent paths being taken in Europe, considering what Germany just did and announced about Bitcoin this week? Well, Merry Christmas to you all. That is what we're going to be discussing tonight in this little live stream. I want to really break down what is going on all across Europe, not just Italy. We are going to come back to Italy here in a moment, but there is a reason why we're talking about Europe, one of the biggest continents in the world. And I think they've been quietly attacking Bitcoin for some time now. We have showed you guys the signposts that have been continually dropping, so to say, or popping their heads up over the past couple of months. So we can see this one here. We covered this news recently. Denmark is an enormous country, and they were the first to introduce unrealized capital gains taxes, okay, on Bitcoin. So that's what they're trying to propose. They're introducing these new laws. Again, nothing has passed yet, but by 2026, we could have unrealized capital gains taxes in Denmark. Again, they're a very, 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 very big country in Europe, but this isn't the only time. We've seen Europe in particular kind of make a little bit of an attack on Bitcoin, so to say. So who remembers the report that the ECB published in October this year? We covered that, and the ECB said that Bitcoin is fueling the division of society. The ECB actually had the audacity to claim that the old Bitcoin hodlers are stealing the wealth from the new people buying Bitcoin. Who remembers this one? The distributional consequences of Bitcoin. This is the central bank for the entire continent of Europe. And Europe right now does seem to be a region that's really attacking Bitcoin in a big way. Okay, Denmark, really just not a fan of what is going on in the realm of Bitcoin and freedom. Let's be honest. We can see here, if you guys thought I was joking, I wasn't. The ECB report in October claims that older Bitcoin holders are exploiting new holders. That's literally what they said. This is what the largest central bank in the world is saying about Bitcoin. Okay, they are saying the quiet parts out loud. I mean, it's shocking what they're saying over there. Are they reading off a script? Why are we seeing the ECB and then all of a sudden a lot of these very large countries in Europe saying very similar things? Again, I haven't showed you what the Italian report said. That dropped literally yesterday on the 24th of December, one day before Christmas, while everybody was, let's say, a little bit distracted. But we can see here, this ECB report literally said, perpetually rising Bitcoin prices would lead to societal impoverishment. I mean, can you get any stronger with the language? No, I don't think so. And again, this is causing a little bit of chaos in Europe for those who have money. We can see the Norwegians are absolutely fleeing their country to hop over to Switzerland to avoid all of the draconian tax laws that are being pushed down in the EU region. But I don't think this is the first time the EU region is going to be attacking Bitcoin. But let's turn our attention back to Italy, the $2.255 trillion giant. They are the eighth largest economy in the world. But this isn't the first time that they have actually been attacking Bitcoin. So for those who have been paying attention, Italy actually tried to do, well, they didn't try to do this, but 2 weeks ago, we got a little bit of a warning of what are the intentions of our good friends in Italy. We can see they did try to raise capital gains taxes from 42% to 26%. Okay, we can see here everybody was talking about this. Even Bloomberg was talking about this. Again, think about that for a moment. Raising capital gains taxes to 42%. That's enormous. That's nearly half of your gains just being stolen by the government. Pretty crazy. But we covered that when it happened, and now we have even more data. We have even more, as this article here says, shocking remarks from the Central Bank of Italy. They said, we can see here, in its latest economic and financial report, the Bank of Italy classified Bitcoin peer-to-peer services as crime as a service. Direct quote. Citing their suspected role in facilitating money laundering activities. They said, money laundering and blockchain. Can you follow their footsteps in the crypto world? Geez, you can really tell that the Bank of Italy doesn't quite understand what is going on here. Again, what is valuable about a blockchain? Nothing. We have databases. You don't need a blockchain for everything. And crypto. Again, to confuse crypto and Bitcoin, in the words of Lynn Alden, proves that you don't understand neither. That's right. If you think Bitcoin is crypto, you don't understand either. That's why we always make a very clear distinction here on this channel between Bitcoin and the tens of thousands of fiat replicators. That's what I like to call cryptocurrencies. They are not a revolution. They're simply replicating what our fiat overlords have done in the analog world, and they're putting that onto a blockchain and calling themselves decentralized, like Ethereum, the second most decentralized cryptocurrency, which is controlled by a small handful of rulers who have already proven that they can change the rules. Again, they rolled back the blockchain in the DAO hard fork. They also kicked all of the proof of work miners off the network 2 years ago during their transition from proof of work to proof of stake. But this isn't a Bitcoin versus Ethereum video. This here is a video about why proof of work is superior to proof of stake and why proof of stake is not decentralized. And why our proof of stake overlords, again, the fiat currency legacy financial system today, it is a proof of stake financial system. Okay, those with the bigger stakes or those with more money, more stake in that system, they have a bigger control over the system. This is exactly what Ethereum is right now, proof of stake. And isn't it just coincidental that Ethereum, pre-mined 70% of their tokens at launch, meaning 70% of all of the Ethereum was created before day one, and Vitalik gave the tokens to himself and a small group of insiders or rulers, or those who now have the most stake and voting power over what happens in Ethereum. Those people can change the rules. It was an unplanned tangent. Let's continue on with what is going on in Europe, the land of proof of stake. So we can see here, I believe that the Bank of Italy is quite confused, considering their report mentioned blockchain and crypto world in the very title. We can see here, surprise, surprise, they're talking about more regulations need to be added. We need the fat F. We need more government. We need more tracking. Here's another article. Again, look at the date. I'm really not making this stuff up, guys. They released this report on, you can see it right there, December 24th, yesterday, just before Christmas. The Bank of Italy calls Bitcoin P2P crime as a service in their latest report. Why are they sneakily trying to push through reports like this the day before Christmas? Literally weeks after they're talking about raising the capital gains taxes on Bitcoin. Are these two things related? That's my big question. Are these two things related? Is the timing of this coincidental? Potentially. Potentially. Are we about to see an increased attack come out of Europe? I think so. So we can see here, I want to have a look at some of the specifics that were buried in this report. So we can see here, so is Bitcoin actually the primary use by criminals? Again, I've had many conversations with, let's just say, with people recently. You meet new people, and again, I really try not to tell people what I do for work. I avoid it like the plague, but I've been trapped into a couple of conversations where somebody's locked me down and they know what I do for work. And they say, Bitcoin, you talk about that thing that's used by criminals. And I'm like, oh, God, here we go. Another dinner wasted trying to explain why I'm not a criminal. But what I will tell you is that the propaganda is strong and people really do believe this kind of nonsense that is being written and talked about with Bitcoin. So let's actually run the numbers. Let's run the facts. I have some statistics here to show whether Bitcoin is, in fact, actually used by criminals or whether the ECB and the Bank of Italy is gaslighting you and lying to you. Prepare to be surprised. So you can see here, there was a 2023 report done by the firm that is partnered up with governments and the FBI and the CIA and every law enforcement agency around the world. This is Chainalysis. They are not friends of Bitcoin at all. But what did they find? I'm going to blow this up for you guys. Chainalysis said that from 2023, $24.2 billion of activity was illegal activity on the blockchain. And these guys have very, very sophisticated on-chain tools and methods to track transactions on the blockchain. But when you run the numbers, you can see something a little bit interesting. That number, 24 billion, I mean, it sounds big, right? Wrong. Let's have a look and compare that to the total percentage of transactions that were in fact illegal. 0.34% of the entire on-chain transaction volume in 2023. We can see here, meanwhile, another report found that something's a little bit different when we look at cash and the traditional system. It estimated that criminals launder somewhere between $800 billion to $2 trillion every year through cash and cash accounts. That's right. The people, the bankers, claiming that Bitcoin is illegal, Bitcoin is only used for money laundering, they're actually the real criminals here. I'm going to show you guys some stats, and let's have a look at how many of these big banks have had to pay enormous fines for what they do, for what they gaslight the public into thinking we do. Again, I don't know the exact statistic, but I do remember one being floated around and talked about recently where it said, so we know the statistic for Bitcoin, we just looked at it. 0.34% of transactions are done illegally, or that's the amount of activity on the blockchains and in the crypto space that's used for illicit purposes. But in the fiat space, I've heard people say 7% of transactions are all a part of money laundering or being used for illicit activities. And there's another statistic, I don't know the exact one, but they looked at what percentage of physical cash notes had drugs on them. And again, I don't want to get the video kicked off YouTube, but it was a very high percentage. Okay, you can read into that what you will. But something that's undeniable is the fact that these banks have already agreed to pay billions and billions of dollars worth of fines for facilitating money laundering knowingly. So TD Bank agreed to pay $3 billion of settlement charges for failing to monitor money laundering tied to drug cartels. This included a record $1.3 billion fine to the US Treasury and $1.8 billion to the US Justice Department. But again, this is not new. I mean, a lot of these banks have been doing this for a long time. This isn't just TD America Bank. A lot of these banks have been caught with their pants down and they've had to pay enormous fines. I'm sure I could find a JP Morgan bank again, JP Morgan, here we go. JP Morgan fined nearly $350 million. So all of these big banks, they're the real criminals here. Again, who banked Jeffrey Epstein? Wasn't Satoshi Nakamoto, it was Jamie Dimon. Who's your banker? JP Morgan? Who are the good customers that you give a bank account to? None other than yours truly. Don't even want to say his name. It's just to say, not a nice individual. I'm going to leave it at that. I think you guys get the picture. Okay? The bankers are getting worried of peer-to-peer technology. And in their very own words, the central bank of the 8th largest economy in the world is publishing reports literally saying the quiet parts out loud. Bitcoin peer-to-peer transactions are crime as a service in their latest reports. You just have to ask yourself, why are they so worried about Bitcoin peer-to-peer transactions? Oh, they obviously don't want peer-to-peer transactions. They don't want you to have power over your own money. They want you to have to use an intermediary who tracks all your transactions, can then subsequently tax all of your transactions. They're obviously going to take their cut of all of those transactions, little 1%, 2%, 3% fee in the middle. And obviously it gives them the control. Okay, this is why we're such big advocates of Bitcoin. Gives you guys financial sovereignty. Okay, when you actually hold your own keys and transact Bitcoin, you are outside the banking system. If you do want to be outside the banking system and you do want to buy some Bitcoin or even get your hands on $10 of free Bitcoin, we always tell you guys about what Rhino Bitcoin is doing. As you guys can see, they've got the slickest mobile app in the space. They make Bitcoin super easy to use. And there's a reason why we've partnered up with the guys at Rhino. We think they're a great Bitcoin-only company. And again, we'd like to remind you guys, they are giving you guys $10 of free Bitcoin if you download the Rhino application and just use a promo code Bitcoin News. That's one word, Bitcoin News. So we highly recommend you check out what Rhino is doing. And again, you're not late to Bitcoin. I do believe we're incredibly early to Bitcoin. Bitcoin might be at $95,000 this Christmas Day, but as I hope to show you here in a moment, this trend will only continue. I have a really cool chart here looking at the price of Bitcoin on Christmas Day, and you can see this trend could be volatile some years. I mean, the Bitcoin price on Christmas Day was lower in 2022 than it was in 2021, but guess where it is today? We are at $98,200. So where do you think the price of Bitcoin is going to be in 2025? My bet is higher. Merry Christmas to all of the 3,375 of you guys tuning in. If you did join the stream late, rewind the stream. We try to bring you guys the news with the fast facts, so to say, and we think what is going on in Europe is really, really interesting. They look to be the region that is just not so friendly on Bitcoin. So again, Christmas is the season to keep your eyes open to what the 8th largest central bank in the world is publishing on Christmas Eve. With all that said, guys, I'm going to wish you guys a Merry